Today we're reviewing the PMD ROM hack, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Exploration. This one's made by BoardCrow24 #6742. And let's delve right into it. This is a fun one. Going over this ROM hack, we're going to go through 3 different categories. Each one have their own certain amount of points, determining on how important I feel is for a PMD game, you know? And for me, story is the most important. So the first category is story, with a possibility of 10 points. The next 2 categories is gameplay and complexity. Gameplay, well, obviously covers the different dungeons, the typings, the different Pokemon they put in there, and just how they balance the game and change up the gameplay with the hacks. And finally, we have complexity. Complexity will go ahead and go over how ambitious the actual hack is, how much work went into it, how much time and effort it would take for someone to get into the meat of this and figure out how to do it, because I know it's hard. I tried doing some of my own hacks. It is hard. So, yeah. We're going to go ahead and get started with the story. The story exploration is a simple one. It follows a Growlithe, part of some guild. We don't know the guild. It is never mentioned. Taking a job to find a lost item. The item is never specified, and the hero of the story, our Growlithe, aka Lewis, I named him Lewis, I had to, ventures into Cardian Mesa, a place where he's never been to. From there, he battles down 15 floors with only a break after the 7th floor, until finally he comes across a Heracross. Here we learn that Lewis has been given this mission to find the lost item of a Heracross, and asks this Heracross if it was theirs. The Heracross, seemingly angry at this Growlithe's intrusion, demands our hero to leave. Not wishing to fight, but wanting to complete his mission, the Growlithe refuses, leading to an epic showdown between the Heracross and Growlithe. Once the battle comes to its conclusion, our hero having bested the Heracross, there is a plot twister. The Heracross reveals itself to be a Mew. Having been alone in this deep cavern for some time, Mew falsely reports a lost item as a Heracross to lure down a Pokemon, which they may have an epic battle. Learning of this deception, the Growlithe voices his disappointment that he ended up helping no one after this long day of work. I mean, 15 floors, it was a rough dungeon, especially somewhere he's never been before, and battling the wild Pokemon to get there. Mew gets upset by this, first saying, "Don't say that," then threatening violence on the Growlithe in a flash of emotions. Growlithe, not wanting to battle it out with a Mew, decides it's time to leave. Mew tries to stop him, but it's too late and our hero runs away, and thus brings an end to our story. So, going to my thoughts about the story, it's not very complex. It's very straightforward. We really only have 2 characters to think about. I guess you can kind of count the Heracross as another one. But our hero, the Growlithe, this adventurer, and this lonely, kind of terrifying Mew. I'm just saying, luring someone all the way down to a cavern they've never been to before just to have a battle and getting upset at them leaving is a bit scary. Our protagonist was more than in his right to hurry out of there, plus what a wasted day. Overall, the story is basic, and for being a short hack with only 1 dungeon, 1 boss battle, it doesn't have to overachieve in that department. Sticking to a more basic and straightforward story of a day in this adventuring Growlithe is not that bad, with a funny twist at the end. For what it is, it's fun, simplistic, and entertaining. Keeping in mind this is a short, one-off hack, I'll give the story a 6 out of 10. It's nothing mind-blowing. There is no amazing story beat that catches you off guard. And the plot twister is more of a silly gag, if anything. So nothing entirely, at least from a story writer's perspective, too inspiring. But for what it is, it was very entertaining. Gameplay. For the gameplay, I feel there really could have been much more variety. Of course, one thing that I did enjoy is the fact that Pokemon is chosen for you, which I know some people won't enjoy because a PMD game usually you get to choose your Pokemon, and that's kind of one of the big things in your character selection. But for this short story, having you follow the story of this one character is kind of nice. I hope to see more ROMs like this as well as the ones where you get to create your own characters. Those are also a lot of fun. However, it also brings a lot of limits, especially considering its moveset. I mean, we're going into a dungeon with an experienced explorer. Its moveset is already decided for you. So you're given Bite, Roar, Flamethrower, and Ember. 1 physical, 2 specials, and status? Is that what you call it? Roar, technically? For the Pokemon you face in the first part of Cardian Mesa, you find Cyndaquil, Trapinch, Aeron, and Sandshrew. To me, it is odd there is no water types. The dungeon design itself utilizes a lot of water assets, but no actual water type utilizes them. So the assets end up becoming something that could trivialize some aspects. Just simply using Roar, for example, you can yeet the opponents into the water and off the screen, out of sight, out of mind. And it kind of makes it a bit easy, a bit simple. I feel this is a misuse of assets by the ROM hacker. I don't like it when assets are wasted. It does add a nice aesthetic purpose to the dungeon, but is ultimately a needless decorative piece that could be abused to make fighting the Ferals easier. And by Ferals, I mean the wild Pokemon. Sorry, I call them Ferals. I would say, though, besides that, the Pokemon selection for the first part, and let me clarify, for the first part of Cardian Mesa is interesting. Having to try to balance the usage of physical and special attack moves against Ferals that either have type advantages or sturdy defenses makes for an interesting moment of strategy. Of course, once again, this is sabotaged by the move Roar, which eliminates some of the challenges. Maybe replacing the move Roar with, say, Leer or Howl or some other status move that makes the player required to use more strategy may have made the experience more challenging and engaging. Moving on to Cardian Mesa Part 2. This is the second part of the dungeon. The Pokemon you find here are Ponyta, and I'd say there's a lot of them, Cyndaquil, Aron, and Sandshrew. Now this is where I have a bit more criticism when it comes to the Pokemon selection. I feel like the ROM hacker just sort of ran out of ideas of what Pokemon to put here, and you can feel it. Only adding in Ponyta randomly and reusing Pokemon from the prior part, I can understand reusing some of the Pokemon from the first part, but only adding one new type of foe to fight really makes the gameplay feel repetitive by the 8th floor. Also, for some reason, Ponytas would spawn everywhere. I tell you, they're everywhere. It's like they have some complex gang. They were waiting for this moment their whole lives to jump some poor adventurer. Now, getting back on track, the Ponytas, if hit enough, they just run away from you, so adding to the complaint of it makes it too easy, and since by now you've dealt with the prior Pokemon so much, it becomes repetitive rather quickly. Another thing I would like to note is the removal of water from this section legitimately made the experience harder and more engaging. Once again, the move Roar could be abused, but not as much as before. Once again, if the move Roar was replaced, I feel the fights could have been much more close and more engaging in its challenge. Because when it comes to the short story and this sort of one-shot of gameplay, you have to make this experience feel fresh, keeping you on the edge of your seat as you try to guide the Growlithe through a place he's never found himself. But by the second floor, the Pokemon begin to feel repetitive, and you have a stronger sense of what to expect. Now, the last thing to mention is the boss fight, and it's nothing special. This is where I think using a Heracross is a strange decision for the fight. Giving you advantage with Flamethrower, but also utilizing Seeds just makes the boss fight utterly easy, like brain dead easy. There was not once a moment in which I was at the edge of my seat during that battle. It felt the boss could use a lot of love. And also a fact, a Heracross is a strange decision when we have not seen any bug types or anything relating to the build-up. Of course, you can argue that this is a Mew and can shapeshift into anything it wants, but why shapeshift into something that gives it a disadvantage? They could just have chosen any other Pokemon. But they chose the one that gives them the hardest chance of winning. Guess they really wanted that challenge. With all this in mind, I give the gameplay a 2 out of 5. I like the choice of Pokemon for the first part, but I feel it could have been much more creative by the second part. Switching the move of Roar with some other status moves and choosing a more challenging Pokemon that matches the theme to face in the final battle, as well as utilizing assets a little more. Don't waste your assets. They're valuable. Complexity. This ROM hack is rather simple, only bringing to the table one custom dungeon, technically 2, and one boss fight. To me, this feels like a test from the ROM hacker, learning how to play with different mechanics, specifically in the construction of their own dungeon, their own script, and dialogue of their own story. Simple or complex. It didn't feel very ambitious, but simplistic. A quick 20 to 25 minute adventure with the Growlithe as our protagonist. Long live Lewis. There is not much to say, as the ROM hack didn't reach for the moon, but it kept it down to earth. And I can respect that. I give the complexity a 2 out of 5. Keep in mind, the hackers still had to go through the efforts of learning how to make their own dungeon from the ground up. which is an oppressive task. Something I know is a struggle to accomplish. You have to get the characters set up, the scripts correct, the assets all in line, and make sure everything doesn't just break on itself. It is a hard thing to pull off, and props to the hacker for learning how to do that, because I still have yet to figure it out. So that brings us to a total score of 10 out of 20 points. For what this ROM hack is out to accomplish, a simple story about Growlithe venturing out to the Cardian Mesa, a place he's never ventured to before, to find some lost items to hopefully help someone in need. It does rather well, with a simple dungeon which aesthetically is pleasing but has some gameplay flaws. It does create an enjoyable 20 to 25 minute adventure. If you like simple, nothing too hard, just quick and easy to do kind of ROM, then you might enjoy this one. If you are after something more complex, something that delves deep into lore, character development, adventures, stuff like that, like a strong, sturdy story with a good hero's journey, then this ROM might not be for you. I know I had a great time playing it, and at the end of the day, it's all about if you are enjoying your time with a piece of PMD content or not. So props to Bored Crow for having the brains and patience to create one of these. It is a lot harder than you might think. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. There's much more PMD content to come, and we're just fully delving into the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon arc of this channel. Next week there'll be another video. If you want to see me playing these hacks live, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/kingdom25_. Have a great rest of your day and have fun adventuring out there. Bye!